All right, let's do a little breakdown of the system. Kind of talk about how I set up my charts, and then a little bit of the execution. I'm going to try to be thorough. I'm not going to worry so much about time, but I'm going to try to bookmark it so that some of it's probably not going to be all that interesting to whoever's watching this, but some of it might be. And so I'm just going to put everything on here. And so what you're looking at right here, just right up, we'll go chart by chart. Yeah. Okay. So this is 15-minute. It's just a basic 15-minute. It's got the daily volume profile. I have it populate on the left. So that's where it grows from. And then on the right, I have a rolling 5-day volume profile. And this is a major decision maker. This profile on the right. This is where a lot of decisions are made. And then up here on the right, we have the 1 hour with a monthly volume profile, and then the dailies on there as well. And the 1 hour has something on it which is incredibly important to me, and it's these yellow lines. And the reason why it's so important for me, this is the most basic thing in the world. It is the most basic thing in the world, but it keeps me on my game. And so it's just market structure, right? So I just take my multi-line deal and mark up my higher lows, lower higher highs, higher lows, lower highs, etc. Get them on here. And by doing this and by updating this, every however long, a couple times a day, I come in and I add to it or whatever. It keeps me on the right side of the market. And that's really key. And I'll show something else that I do with this, which is particularly interesting, in my opinion, is I mark key levels where the structure breaks, right? So you'll notice here, this is roll, right? So volume's a little low over here. This was the last contract, or this was before volume migrated to this contract. So we're seeing like this thin price action here, but you'll see right off the bat that we had this, we had the sell down. Then we had a lower high, kind of an equal high, and then we broke down further. We weren't able to put in a lower low, and then we came up and we broke this, and then we could say that it was at this point that like structure had changed and we went into a bullish market. And I mark out those breaks in structure on my chart, and they can be, I find them to be important. I find them to be important going forward. And so I mark those in blue. And so, here we are, we're up at the top. This up at the top up here, we could say that like this level here was potentially a break in structure. I'm not too concerned about this one. But I think what we do have is we do have this, right? And so we could kind of consolidate this and say this was our high, this was our low, this was our next high. And then sure enough, the break-in structure here and then the break-in structure here of this level created this consolidation zone down here. I think that this level, this break is probably pretty important. I know this break's less important. This was a gap from Sunday night. I'm going to leave that on this chart, but this is not on my other chart. So these are levels that I mark on this chart, and these are like the only levels that I mark on this chart. So, and I just kind of keep this here, zoom in a little bit, and keep that here. So with that being said, now that I kind of move some levels around, I'm gonna make sure that this doesn't look like it's sank well enough. So I'm gonna make sure those levels are drawn on here and move them over, because typically if the levels have if the levels are start closer to the current price action, then they tend to copy onto the next charts a little bit better. Here, let's just get rid of these, and I'm just going to copy this up. That guy on. Yeah, good enough. Good enough. Just keep that. So these are the 3 really key levels that I'm watching. Then, in addition to those, I'm marking out my low volume nodes. Again, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that these are drawn further off to the right, as such. Like that little node right there. I think that's probably pretty important. So this really is kind of like my routine, just marking off these low nodes, getting the charts ready for tomorrow, or the Globex session. I typically like to trade Globex because the strategy that I'm using seems to work really well in kind of like the lower volatility environments. I think this one can go. I don't think I need to worry about this one anymore. Let's get rid of this fucker. There we go. Yeah, let's move this guy over. All right, there we go. That's our rolling 5. Kind of splitting the difference on some of these with the monthly up there. We got something here, yeah. Okay, feeling good about these. So these are the levels that I'm playing with. I feel like the rolling 5-day actually gives me more important reads than the developing levels on the current day. And then I have another way of looking at levels that I'm going to get to here in a second. But these are kind of like my standard kind of like time-based charts that I use. Okay, there we go. On to the next charts. Okay, here we are. We're going to be looking at our 15,000 volume candlestick, and then we're going to be looking at our 500 tick candlestick chart. And this is the chart that I do all my trading on, but this chart here is I get a lot of information from this chart. I should actually start with another chart. All right, this is a chart that we should start with. So here's a 30-minute whatever. I never look at this. I'm trying to figure out what to put over here. Maybe this could just be Discord or something like that. Then I have oil up here, or this could be gold. I don't know. I'm thinking I should be trading other markets. But what we have here is we have the gold is overnight session. White is current session. Brown is the initial balance. Yeah, then that's what I have on here. Got the VWAP in the background, and then this is 125,000 volume chart, and we have our volume profile here on all of the candles, and then we got the delta reading over here on all the candles. And I still don't totally understand how to use delta, how to look at it. I think basically I mean, sure, we're looking for divergence, right? But I think more importantly than divergence, I think we're looking for like massive, like if we're looking for a reversal, we're looking for massive green volume, a massive green delta on the side, and then seeing the node get created on this side for the most part. Otherwise, I mean, I'm just looking for divergence, and I could probably just take the delta off and I'll trade just as well. But I a lot of the traders that I follow use delta, and so I'm just trying to get a feel for it, kind of learning organically. But as you'll see here, 125,000 volume. It's pretty massive. I have the daily volume profile over here. But so right here is a 20-minute, right? This 20-minute chart right here. We kind of had high volume today, right? Here's the 25-minute. Here's 25-minute. Another 25, 25, 15. But oftentimes, like in the Globex, these can take 3-4 hours to form, and I quite like that. So I pay attention. I pay attention to the volume on these, and I'll kind of get into how I read that here in a second. But this is that chart. All right, now we're coming over and we're looking at kind of my scalping system. So let's see here. So how do we do this? How do we break this down? Obviously, levels are important. Oh shit, I gotta get all those new levels over here. Hold up. All right, there we go. Now we got our levels from our 15-minute chart on. I'm gonna unsync that now because the 15-minute, because sometimes I'll draw levels on the daily volume profile. I then use those for levels. But some of my trades from the day. Let's come over and let's check out some of these trades and how I was positioning, why I was positioning, where I was positioning, etc. I put on a fair amount of trades today in a couple of different accounts, and I think from 12 to 1 or 12:30 to 1:30, I think it was when I was busy. Let's see here. Got these guys on. Yeah, I think this was my first trade. Yeah, so 12:20. All right. And if we look at my P&L from the day, what the fuck? When did I put on losing trade? What is this? What is this? I don't know. I have to figure that out eventually, but here. Here's my P&L from the day. So first trades started going on around 12:20. I had a decent size up early and ended up just like crushing on my first trade, something like this. And I ended up putting like 700, 800 on or something like that on one of my first trades. And then after that, basically kept my positioning to like, I think of 10 MNQ or something like that. It's pretty mind-blowing. 47-second average hold time. And then if we look at my trades today, you can see how insane the hold times are. Start at the bottom. So we had 1 second, $20. 2 seconds, $23. This is on my so these were automatically taken on. So I must have had 10 contracts on. Let's see here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yep. So that was that losing trade. But the thing is that with I have an automatic trading. I have an ATM that I use which is this. So I have this set up. So then I enter with 5 MNQ, and immediately I take off 2 for $10 each. Or yeah, 2 for $10 each. So I take $20 off. And it basically only takes a wiggle of the market in order for me to get profit on that. That's 5 points, right? That's all I need. So I get, if the market wiggles 5 points in my direction, I lock in $20. Then I have another profit target that's at $50. This gets moved most of the time. Stop loss is at 35. But here's the thing: is that when I hit $30 in profit, so 15 points, just a little bit further than quite a bit further than this one. Once I hit $30 in profit, then I go to break even on one of the contracts. Then also before that, if I got 10 points in the money, I go to break even on this contract. And then finally, another one goes to break even at 30. This, it doesn't matter what order these are in. I suppose I could change this. No, okay. So that's how that is. So basically when we add this up, right, we've got 30, we got $95 in risk here plus 70, right? So we got $170 is my max loss on a position. On a 5 lot, right? $170. And once I'm able to take off $20 in profit with this first stop loss, so I'm padding that 170 and making my max loss 150. But I'm also taking off 40%, right? I'm taking off 40% of that 150. So whatever 40% of 150 is $60. So if this wiggles in my direction and this gets closed out, my max loss on this position is $90, which I quite like. I mean, I like how that's set up. And then down here, I have a $40 trailing stop loss and a $20 trailing stop loss that triggers once the market really rips. And so like the reason why I have this is that, if the market all of a sudden rips 35 points, which it does quite often, then this stop loss just snaps up and it basically takes $50 of that. It locks in $50 of a like $35 move. It's just boom, I lock it in, and then it trails. I'm not quite sure how the frequency works. I'm not sure how the frequency works, but it's whatever. I usually just like feed these stops to price. Once it starts moving in my direction, I'll show exactly what I mean by that when we get to some of these trades. Because the idea for me with this entire setup is to be able to get into a position where I have like 1 or 2 runners. That's it. I'm just trying to get in, boom, grab $20, maybe grab another 5 or 30 or 50, and then see if I can get a runner on. And so that is essentially how these trades are. All right, so that's basically how I structure these trades. So when we look at what's going on over here, here was my first trade of the day, so on this account. And so what you'll see happen here is that I entered, it looks like I was short 10, right? 10 MNQs. Took one off for 23, took another off for 20. I fed another stop to it down here, and I took the loss up here, 506, 88. I kind of No, I didn't stretch it too much. I don't think I stretched those stops too much. But then I took a hard hit on those last five contracts, right? $30, 35, 33, 36. Yeah. So that's basically a system. That's basically my system trade, right? That's how I do it. Then, and sometimes I size up, and this is one of those moments where I do size up. This is some crazy shit right here, but this is how we trade, right? So um shorted. I saw the breakdown was happening. I had my 9 weighted moving average. I don't care if this is exponential or whatever. It doesn't matter. You just need something that's tight, like, and that keeps you on the right side of the trade. And so I have it colored so like when it starts going down, it's dark blue, and when it goes up, it's light blue. Saw the breakdown, and I got in 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So I'm short 30 MNQ right now. And this is something I do, right? And if you and what's wild about this is like you now you see these exits, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? Is that correct? Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So each one of these is $20, right? And this is me just getting out because I shorted and it wiggled in my direction and I got out. So this is $120 locked in right here. Quickly. And by the time price probably got down to like here, I already had 50% of my remaining position, or 30% of my remaining position was already to break even. And by the time price got down to here, certainly my entire position was to break even. So like this is pretty decent. Market moves down, and I start taking those stops and dragging them down, bam, 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 as prices going further. Some of them are targets, some of them aren't. Like if we look at this, 48.50, that was probably a target hit. 50.50, these are probably targets getting hit. Look at this, bam, 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 just beautiful. Just lacing out. And then I had one runner. And look where that fucking runner got stopped out. Just right at the top of that pullback. It happens. But I don't I keep my stop at break even or just above, and I try not to mess with it too much. But like this is a really decent trade. And how wrong could this have been? Pretty wrong. I mean, it's I shouldn't be trading 30 contracts. Worst case scenario, 1,500, I think. No. $900 loss would be worst case scenario, which obviously puts me on my back foot, right, for the rest of the session. So worst case scenario, I'm down $900. However, using that method of taking off a couple quickly, this is pretty interesting. So 120. So I take 120 in profit off of that. So that knocks me down to like $780 in risk. But that also cuts down on the number of positions that I have on. So I've got 40% off of 780 would be like $300. So that puts me at like 480. That puts me at $480. If the price wiggles in my direction, it leaves me with $480 in risk and a profitable position. Right. So like at that point at break even, I mean I've got $120 locked in. And so that's pretty decent. Yeah, sprayed lower. Took them off. That sucks that I got stopped out there, but that's part of the deal. You just a little oneer, just testing the waters on that one. Here's another little oneer. So this is interesting, and this is where I should probably talk about. This is where I changed my bias. Yep, this is where I changed my bias. So here we are. We're at 1 o'clock, and at 1 o'clock, it's at this moment that I am at. Got some decent profits on the books right now. Yeah, I'm up. I'm up $1,200, like $1,400 at this point. With fees. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm up $1,200 with fees. I'm up $1,200, so I'm over halfway to my total P and L on the day. I mean, I sized up. I kind of got lucky on that trade, but let's talk about this. This is really key. What I was seeing and how I traded this here. So, come on now, man. Okay, okay. Okay, there we go. There's that double bottom. Okay, zoom in. Zoom in, and now we're gonna get our. I'm gonna get into our 125,000 chart because this is really where I saw what was happening. I felt confident in getting long. So, here's. This is really important here. So I'm gonna even like. We're gonna do something like. I know there's a cooler way of doing this, but I just want to have something to be able to show you what I'm looking at here. So it's on this candle here, just to the left of that dot, that we're seeing that taper up at the top, right? Volumes tapering up there, and volumes tapering up there, which is showing me something really interesting. Is that previously in the session, if we tell the story of the whole session, not to get too wild or whatever, like in depth on what was happening, we came up to that structure break, the historic structure break, which is this blue line up here, and we pushed up higher, and we put in a little bit of volume up there at the top of that candle. That was like the last hurrah for the bulls. That was the bulls trying to push higher, and they failed. We could go into the smaller charts and show how that failure looked on a smaller chart, but I don't think that is necessary. Then we pushed down here. And where did we push down to? We pushed down into this candle, which had a deformation. And this is kind of an important candle because this is like the close of the initial balance. And this candle had a lot of bullish sentiment to it. So what does that mean? That means that price essentially built a giant distribution here. You can see that the meat of these candles are in this zone right here. And when price finally broke up and above the VWAP, which is a blue line, we established a lot of volume right here, which meant that price was ready to explore and move out of the range and go higher. We did go higher. We went to this historic structural break, and we failed. There was a little battle up there. The bulls failed, and then we came down. And the bottom of this candle is a VWAP, but it's also the meat of this D-shaped distribution. The next 3 candles, the meat of those distributions are basically right there on the VWAP. So I'm looking at that. It's at this point right here that we're starting to see we had a taper here, which is showing that the bears are pushing. But as the volume is getting less and less as we're going down, I'm thinking that, this could be a bottom, which would make sense because this was where price broke out here. The next candle, we're going down, 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 down. Trapped some sellers, but we put this volume in down here. Does this volume mean that this volume mean that the bulls won? Or does this volume mean that there was a battle there, there's interest to trade there again, and considering that the bulls failed up here, we kind of have to see what's going to happen as we start getting into these tapers here. We got up into those tapers and we failed, came down, and then this next candle kind of shot lower. And I think my big short was around 1220. So that doesn't even happen until like this candle. Well, we'll see. I think it was this candle. Oh, that's a nice little trade there. It was just at the bottom of this. Wow. It was just at the bottom of this. So we had established this volume. We broke down underneath it, and then we went back up, and there's no interest in saving it. There's no buyers there to pull this higher. And we saw the failure, and then we saw the creation of volume lower. Once again, we closed on here, prices here. There was an attempt to go higher. They couldn't do it. They couldn't even get up into the wick, and we sold off. Then we sold underneath the initial balance low. There was a taper into it, and then we went under it and we built volume underneath it. And I think this was where I took this trade, was at, when we look here, it sucks that I don't have all those. Sucks that I don't have all those lines. Like these lines didn't copy over. What's the guy got to do to get those lines to copy over? That's crazy. Man, what do I gotta fucking do? Come on, dude. All right, anyway. This is why I like CR chart, because CR chart will copy your levels. Initiated volume down, and then we had the push. And the push happened right here. And we went down and we had this taper. And we had this taper at this level. It was during this push, I think, that I put in the Market Zero chat where I was like, how are we gonna be able to, or like, what are our indicators as far as how to tell when there's a bottom, or if we're actually gonna buy, if we have a don't fade this tape meter or something like that. I put that in here. It was during this time. And so we look, I had this short, had another short over here. This was a quick little, and this is a beauty of the system, right? Like look at this. So I add a setting for 3. No, this is 5. So this is great. Took $20 right away. Boom, took another $17. Took another 6, and then I don't know where the other contract was. But oh, it was here. Look at that. Yeah, okay, it was here and here. Gotcha. All right. So so we bounced up. I took another little short long, caught it, and then now if we remember this double bottom, this is going to be really key for this next part, right? So let's populate. Here we go. All right, so So over here, right, it doesn't look like I have my trade lines on. Nope, it doesn't. Okay, cool. So this was, this chart is 10 times faster than the last one that we were looking at. So now we get to look inside of that, inside that candle. We're seeing the battle down here. This is a decent taper. This is kind of gnarly, but we are starting to establish some volume up a little bit higher. Then we push down. We have this little pregnant candle, and then we trap some sellers. And it was at this point where it was in this candle where when we started building this volume right here, it was this volume right here where when we started building this, and it was above this node, and we started putting this volume in, I thought to myself, this was the failure of the bears to go lower, and this was the bulls starting to push higher. And so that's where I put on this trade. And it was only one, it was only a oneer, right? Then I put on another one, and it's quick, right? Like these are quick fucking trades. So you look at this one, I'm in at 104 and 11 seconds. Take off my 20. My next out is looks like it's for 16 bucks. I'm up $36. I take another one off of $45, and I got another one off for break even. So on this trade, sure, I've risked $170. I only got 45. But the thing is that the risk reward is skewed, but it's a high probability trade. And so that's my thing. I got out too early though. I was right to be buying here, but this wick would have scared me. That wick would have fucked with me. But what do we see here? We see a push higher. We see a push higher, which is probably this candle right here. This is the top of this one. You see a push higher, and the bulls run out of gas. There's a push lower, and the bears run out of gas. And so this is a tough candle to trade. But we now have a key level with which to watch. And so we're looking at this. This is going to be our decision-making candle for a while. So take this quick trade, done. Then I try to take a long here. Makes sense. Look at this. We're up, we pull back, we're up, we pull back. It's kind of like a inverted head and shoulders kind of jam here. I get in, I take the hit. That's what's going to happen, right? So I take the full hit, 170 bucks or whatever it is. It almost looks like it's more than that. I mean, this is just fucking gross. Yeah, I think this was one where I actually moved my stops. But sure enough, I put my stops all the way down where I was like, man, I could have just put it down at this point of control for this candle or something, and maybe I would have been able to make something happen. Next trade looks like it was a little revengey, but at the same time, risk is managed. So I get in. No, I only got in at 15. That's cool. So I got in with 15. Bing, bing, bing. So this is, 20 bucks or whatever on all of these. So this represents 8 of my 15 contracts, half of my contracts, getting taken off right here. Well, wait, no, 20. So yeah, this is 40%. 40% getting taken off, pulling it quick, whatever, $100, a little over $100. Sat on it, watched price go up, took some more. All of my stops would have been at break even at this point. Sure enough, boom, 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 boom. And then I probably wiggled one stop a little bit lower, and I took that loss. How long did this trade take? I was in at I was in at 112-ish and 14 seconds. I was out at 112-ish and 46 seconds. And this was hundreds of dollars. I mean, this was a totally dope trade. So yeah, I was at plus 1237. And then I don't even know how to. I mean, it's like it would take me so fucking long to figure. I don't know. It's boom, $200, $250. Great trade. And then we get this guy over here. So what is this? What is this trade here based on? This trade here is probably based on. I'm still looking at this key zone right here. We have a taper down into it. We have a taper down into it. And then we have a taper down into it. And then we build. Hold up. Sorry, I got a text message. Lost my train of thought. But we had a taper, and then we had a volume build here. And so I think with my entries, 24, yeah, it's perfect. So like all of these entries and how I was trading this, over here, it gave me the right risk reward. So you look at this and it's like 1, 2, 3. I got 15 long right here. Right? This is what we just did. 15 long right here. I had room underneath this candle, underneath this taper. Boom. Took that. Again, I got in here 30. I had plenty of room. Plenty of room for my trade to work. Now this is where it actually works in my favor, right? So I get in 114 and 38 seconds. Boom, $20. Super quick. Next one. 15 seconds later. Take another one for $26. Price rips. Now remember, my whole idea for this concept, the whole reason why I trade is like I can make money by doing this, but the real money is made by these runners. $116. Nailed that exit. Also, notice that the MA is changing colors up here. That wasn't why I got out. I think I was getting out probably because I was targeting. I said I put this in the chat. I was targeting the 500 level. Got out there, and then this stop was obviously underneath this one, right? But we had the taper, right? Here's a taper on this candle. We had a taper on this one. And so what am I looking for here? I'm looking for price to come all the way back down and test this, if not this area. And what I'd like to see happen would be when price comes down and it tests this level, I want to see the fight. So here's the volume. Here's a ton of selling, right? And I guess this selling got absorbed and it ran out of gas. So then price starts moving up and I was just sitting there ready, right? I was sitting there ready, finger on the trigger, and it looks like I bought 5 here, 5 here. It looks like I bought maybe more, so I was probably up to like 13 contracts on this one. And took my $20. I remember, yeah, I kind of remember this one where I moved those initial stops up. I was like, this shit's gonna go, and so I moved those stops up, and I'm just feeding my stops because as price is moving up, all of those stops that I have are moving to break even. And once they start moving to break even, I just grab them and then put them under price. Boom, boom, boom. Because this is all happening really fast, right? I mean, like, look at this. This is at 118 and 36. This is at 119 and 25. This is less than a minute. This is less than a minute, and we're going from 465 up to 510. We're traveling 50 points in under a minute. I just snapped it. Boom, boom, boom. Stop, 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 stop. I'm just moving them up. I'm just feeding stuffs to price. Some of them are probably targets. Hit it. Big winner. Get stopped out, and then I held my last one for as long as possible, and I ended up getting my 133 on that. So a nice little 65-point runner. And then is this the last trade of the day? Yeah, I think that's the last trade of the day. So let's see, hold up. Maybe it's not the last trade of the day. Let's keep looking. Yeah, that was the last trade of the day. That was it. So what is this? So what is this breakdown then, right? So I got up. We saw this. Broke through the initial balance low. Shot up. We had a taper. And this is a decent taper at the top. The wick came back down. Price opened up. They tried again. They couldn't get higher. Price came back down. New candle opened up at the high, and this is just taper, right? This is just absolute fucking taper. So this is the bulls running out of gas, and the bears taking control, and the creation of volume below up here. So we have a little volume pack here, D-shaped distribution here, and then we see the big sell-off. New lows of the day, coming all the way down. Taper, little taper, whatever. I didn't trade this, so I can't really speak to it. So anyway, that was my trading for the day. So how many actual positions did I take? Probably, let's see, we can say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, we could say 7. 7 trades. I think that's fair. So this was 7 trades. My P&L sheet is going to say that I had 84 trades, but really it's 7. 7 trades is what I put on. And of those 7 trades, I think I had one that maybe 2, 1.5, 2 that were losers, and then the other 5 or 6 were winners, big winners. So that was the system. I'm gonna pause this video here and get my charts in order, and then go on and see if I'm going to trade Globex or not. Yeah, I'm not going to fuck with Asia session. That earning pump, whoever that was. Micron Technology or whoever reported. I'm not going to trade that. I think that's probably too much volatility. I might check back later, but I'm just going to post this now.